Donkey Kong is one of my all-time favorite Nintendo IPs, so it stands to reason that I would also enjoy the spin-off Diddy Kong Racing, the racing game featuring Diddy Kong and his friends Banjo, Conker, and a couple of others as they race to save Timbers Island from the evil Wizpig on a number of over a number of tracks across 5 worlds. The fifth, yes, there are indeed 5 worlds. Those of you who may not have played this in years, who may not have played this since they were little kids, may not be aware, but there actually is a fifth and final world, hidden behind a sheer amount of insane difficulty. You can unlock a fifth circuit with more tracks and a true final boss. It is remarkably hard to get to. So hard, in fact, that I genuinely feel as if most players would never reach this circuit at all. But it does exist, it is real, and if you haven't already, I highly suggest you return to the game, clear through everything, and unlock those final tracks. Because unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to get a real sequel to Diddy Kong Racing ever. This is the only game we're ever going to get, and unlocking the final 4 tracks might actually be something of interest to you if you grew up loving the game. So, what is this game though? So, Diddy Kong and friends are racing across a variety of island tracks using a variety of different vehicles: a car, a hovercraft, a vehicle that can ride on water, and planes. I think this is the main thing that sort of sets it apart from Mario Kart on like a surface level. The variety of vehicles. There are certain stages where you can only use planes or only use hovercrafts or only use cars, and I think the more appealing stages to me are the ones that tend to use hovercrafts and cars, because they tend to do a lot of stuff differently than the typical car levels, which just feel like Mario Kart rehashes a lot of time. In the plane ones, you'll be flying through volcanoes, you'll be flying through windmills. There's a lot of like really cool moments where you're like shooting people out of the sky. Like it's a lot of fun, and really honestly just a lot of fun to just fly around the island in a lot of cases. And the hovercraft has like cool segments as well, with like this level where you're going through these where you're going through this bay or going through these caves or going down these rapids. Like it feels way different than Mario Kart 64 in a lot of ways, but it feels most different when you're playing as something other than the car. The car does feel very Mario Kart-ish, although it does have its very real differences. That is the big thing that I'm really taking away from this, is that like although this is clearly influenced by Mario Kart, you have like the items, you have like the mascot characters, you have like the cutesy visuals. It clearly is trying to be its own thing. It has a story mode where you're exploring a world map and like unlocking new areas to proceed through the games and unlock new tracks. It has a way different item system. You have like 4 different color balloons, 5 I think, 5 or 6. You have several different colored balloons that give you different kinds of items. You consistently get the same items depending on what balloons you get, but you can upgrade those items by getting the same balloon again. So you kind of have incentive to sort of to hold on to your items in this one, and maybe stack up and maybe do something a little bit different, which can be very beneficial to you. For example, during my aforementioned encounter with the octopus boss, one of the things I did towards the end was that I simply got ahead of the boss, and instead of getting boosts, I simply stacked up on missiles. So you had 10 shots in order to deal with him, in order to stagger him if he ever got ahead of you. So whenever he got ahead of me, I would just fire away, shoot him, and then just take off right past him. Really difficult boss, but that was the strategy I used to get ahead in the end. And boy, was it difficult. I don't think I need to tell you. This game is hard as nails. Like legit, I would say this is probably one of the low-key harder Nintendo games out there. Like I can't think of anything in the past couple of years that I've played that's been more difficult than this. I spent a couple of hours on the octopus boss. I spent a lot of time on individual races, particularly the silver coin challenges. I think I'm now trying to face the first form of Wizpig before the fifth and final circuit. Um, there's a lot to do in this game. There's a lot of content, but how's the racing? How does the racing hold up against Mario Kart? This game clearly has way more content than Mario Kart 64 in the sense that like it has a really fleshed. It has boss fights. It has mini games. It has like a really fleshed out multiplayer. It has a fifth circuit. But the racing itself, I would say, honestly, comes a little bit behind Mario Kart 64. Like something about the tracks of Mario Kart 64, something about the way the vehicles handle. Like Mario Kart sticks to what it's good at and does it really well. And it took me about an hour to get through Mario Kart 64 when I played it earlier this year. I actually should probably do a video on that as well. But I really liked it. Like it was a lot of fun to play. It held up really well. And playing Diddy Kong Racing in comparison, the racing is good but not the best. It feels a lot like you really do feel the difficulty a lot of time. Like it doesn't feel like the AI gives you a really fair shot of winning a lot of times. Like you have to understand like a lot of like the game's finer mechanics. Like for example, how to extend your boost. Like boosts become more powerful if you let go of the accelerator. Which if you don't know that, it makes like some of these later races like basically impossible. Even with it, it's still really hard. Your hovercraft can lose your momentum. Like there are like lots of little things that kind of make sense in the context of the game, but like when it all like comes together, when like you have to deal with like the silver coins, when you have to deal with like these ridiculous boss fights, like it really does come off like you're having less fun than you would have if you had simply played Mario Kart 64. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel. It felt like it was trying to do so much differently than Mario Kart. It forgot to try and like to do it well in a lot of ways. Like it doesn't feel like Banjo-Kazooie in that respect. Like Banjo-Kazooie is similarly on the surface like really similar to Mario 64, but like it has a lot of little touches that make it feel really unique and different. Diddy Kong Racing has more stuff and that's it. It feels like they didn't really realize what they wanted to do here, and it's a real shame because I think this was Rare's first attempt at making an N64 racing game. They really hit it out of the park with this one, and if they had had the opportunity of making a sequel like on GameCube, like the game they announced, Donkey Kong Racing, where you race on animals. Like it actually sounds like they had a lot of ideas to make this IP, like make this idea of a Diddy Kong racing game, right? A Kong racing game come off as really unique and fun. But as it stands, I don't want to call it generic, but it's leaning towards that area. You know what I mean? Like there are lots of things that make me feel like, okay, this is a game, in spite of all of its positive qualities, is still not quite as good as some of the other better racing games on N64. I would say Mario Kart 64 is better. I would say F-Zero X is better. I might even suggest that like 1080, the snowboarding game is better, but I might want to give that game another romp before I give my conclusions on that. The track designs in Diddy Kong Racing, I think, are the most blatant examples of like kind of the lack of overall quality, because they all feel really basic. Like a lot of times they're just a basic loop. Like they look lovely, they look gorgeous compared to like Mario Kart 64, but from like a design standpoint, they're not very interesting to race through a lot of the time. Like they're just there. Like it's they're just locations, you know what I mean? Like they don't feel like tracks. They don't feel there's nothing really interesting about them. The way you would like find a Mario Kart track like endlessly interesting and replayable. Like it doesn't have that level of quality. Like it just this game could have been great, and I'm really curious like how the DS version made changes to it, because I'm curious as whether the DS version actually might have a better single player mode. It probably doesn't have a better multiplayer mode because of the nature of like handheld gaming and just how obnoxious it is to get 4 people together in a room with the same console and the same game to play a multiplayer game like that. That has always been ridiculous, and I've always never been a fan of that. But Diddy Kong Racing is, I think, still a pretty solid game. Like can still be considered a classic, right? Like there's still lots of things about this game that I really, really like. I know kids who still like and play this game. Like, it still has that appeal. Like, there are still fans of this game out there, and I could totally see why. Like, it's not my favorite game ever, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have to be your favorite game ever. Like, this is still a Nintendo classic, and should be talked about. Like, this game did a lot to make Diddy Kong a household name. I wish I wish there was a real sequel. I wish they continued expanding on this idea of like having multiple vehicles. I wish Nintendo would come out with more racing games. Period, because like they kind of peaked on N64 and they've kind of tapered off since then. We haven't gotten a new 1080. We haven't gotten a new Wave Race. We haven't gotten a new F-Zero. We haven't gotten a new Diddy Kong Racing. Like, it's just it's endlessly frustrating. It's just definitely one of the most underutilized genres of Nintendo right now. Like, with the popularity of Mario Kart, like, they really could put out some more stuff like it. I'm just saying, like, Diddy Kong Racing was a huge success. I would love to see more racing games in this style. I would love to see, like, Diddy Kong return, like, in his own game. Like, I would love to see this kind of thing continue. But unfortunately, Rare just had to sell themselves to Microsoft, and they just had to ruin a good partnership for no reason, because the creators just, I don't know, didn't want to keep working with Nintendo or whatever. It was just so frustrating. But the game itself holds up really well. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I hope I'll have maybe a full review soon regarding like the final area. I might do a separate video like regarding like Future Funland and like the stuff you'll find there, just because I think most people aren't aware it even exists. But Diddy Kong Racing is absolutely a classic.